So we want to try to prove that sine squared of theta plus cosine squared of theta equals 1. Okay, so first I'm going to use SOHCAHTOA. By the way, if I could just rewrite this real quick, sine squared theta is really the same as sine of theta squared. Okay, because this is all one number. And this is going to be the cosine of theta squared. Okay, and we're going to try to prove that it equals 1. For the sine function, we know the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So in place of sine, I'm just going to write opposite divided by hypotenuse. And that whole thing is squared. And then for the cosine, it's adjacent over hypotenuse. So it's just going to be adjacent divided by hypotenuse. And that whole thing is squared as well. Okay, remember when you square a fraction, you square the numerator and denominator individually. And you can see we have a common denominator. So we're going to have opposite squared plus adjacent squared divided by hypotenuse squared. Okay? And now for this part, I'm going to plug in some letters or variables. Okay, I'm going to construct a right triangle. And here's the right angle. Across from the right angle is always the hypotenuse. Okay, so that's going to be C. The other two sides are just A and B. All right, so for a given angle, theta, if you go across from the angle theta, that side length is your opposite. Okay, across from the right angle, that side length is your hypotenuse, and the remaining side is your adjacent. Okay, so I'm going to let the opposite side equal A, and the adjacent side equal B, and the hypotenuse equal C from my right triangle. So in place of opposite squared, I'm going to do A squared. In place of adjacent squared, I'm going to do B squared. And in place of hypotenuse squared in the denominator, I'm going to do C squared. Now we know from Pythagorean theorem that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, so in place of A squared plus B squared, I'm going to sub in C squared. And C squared is divided by C squared. As long as C is not 0, and we know it's not 0 because it's a side length, that's going to equal 1. All right, so the original statement, sine squared plus cosine squared of an angle theta equals 1.